Hi there. Today, the spiritual attribute that I'm going to talk about is one that's called spiritual direction. Now, sort of speaks for itself in a lot of ways. A spiritual direction, the direction that you are taking spiritually. So, why would that be a spiritual attribute? Because we can take any kind of a direction spiritually or materially or whatever we want in daily life. And that does relate to spiritual direction as a spiritual attribute, but the attribute is your spiritual direction, the one that you're taking in this life, the one that you decided that you were going to take or attempt to take in this particular incarnation. And in each life you've lived, you've had a spiritual direction. Right at the very, very beginning, when your main concern was physical survival, you still had a spiritual direction. That's why when archaeologists and so forth look back at how humanity has evolved, they see spiritual practices. So right from the dawn of human consciousness, we as human beings recognized a spiritual aspect. And we lived our lives by it, or attempted to. It may not have been very personal at the beginning, more that the whole tribe followed the same practice. And that became everybody's personal spiritual direction. So very much directed by what everybody else was doing. But over time, certain souls incarnated who were just that little bit more evolved, and they had their own personal spiritual directions. And we can see them throughout history when we look at how spiritual practices have changed all over the world. And generally with major spiritual movements, which generally become religions, it has been one person who has started it in some way. They've looked at things differently. They have a different spiritual viewpoint. And as they walk their life in that direction, they influence other people. And other people decide that they agree with that spiritual direction and they want to follow it. So that is the spiritual attribute of spiritual direction at work in evolving humanity. But now we are evolved humanity, still evolving, but we're a long way along the path now. And if you're listening to these videos, then you will have your own personal spiritual direction, which may or may not be aligned with other people's, may or may not be aligned with major world spiritual directions, which are still religions, but the world we live in today, organised religion is often being challenged by spiritual people who find a mix, like they take a mix from this one and that one, what they resonate to, and in doing so have really uncovered the underlying sameness, a spiritual energy that runs through all the major world religions. You've just got to peel away the parts that human beings have added through their own translations and then made holy, so to speak. And people have believed that and carry it forward. So a lot of that is being challenged today because people's spiritual directions have taken them to the point where it is time for them to challenge it. They have lived lives where they followed the major world religions. We all have. And we've grown from it. And they have their place still. So we're not here to take them apart, but we're here to forge our own path forward. And some of us may take others with us, but we don't have to. That's not part of it. Part of your spiritual direction is to be some kind of a world spiritual leader. If it is, well, it'll happen. But just we as ordinary spiritual people can just do our own bit for our own spiritual growth and evolution, and for that of our family and friends, without preaching at them. Because we as evolved spiritual people respect other people's truths, other people's beliefs. We would like them to do the same for us, but it doesn't always happen. And sometimes we try to share our beliefs, our understandings, our spiritual hopes and dreams, and we find that we're being persecuted within our families, within our communities. We're not understood, we're laughed at, various things. And that sometimes causes people like us to retreat. Some even abandon their spiritual direction to conform, to fit in. And okay, if that happens, in their next life they'll pick it up again and hopefully not give in to pressures around and conform when they don't really believe in what they're conforming to. But I'm sure that you're all at the stage where your spiritual direction is calling you. You may not even know what it is. And you know, you don't have to be able to give it a name. Sometimes it's just that you feel that there's something more, something higher. And I'm not seeing it represented in the formal religions around me. So your spiritual direction then may be to, okay, well, I'm not going to find my spirituality there. So I will look for it elsewhere. And if I don't see it anywhere around me, then I'll go within myself. I will go within myself and directly connect with the Creator and ask to be shown my spiritual direction, my path forward. Now, some people will very strongly be able to name their spiritual direction. And that's good. That's good for them. They may reach a time where that particular direction needs to change, and that can bring challenges with it. Oh, I thought this was it totally, the be-all and end-all. And now I'm finding that I'm questioning a few things now. That this is just not giving me that. I'm restless. There's just something wrong, something missing. Well, that's letting you know that you're still following your spiritual direction. It's just that there's been a sharp bend. The path may have been straightforward up till that point. And you could see ahead. And you had all the tools, and maybe you were a part of a group and a little community, all sorts of things like that. And that was really great. And nobody really wants to lose that. But sometimes we do have to follow our own personal spiritual direction. Sometimes we have to make a right or a left turn while the others just keep going on the same road. Now, it doesn't mean they're wrong, and it doesn't mean you're wrong. What could be considered wrong is not allowing yourself to follow your true direction And what could be considered wrong is trying to force other people to change with you when they're not ready. So we do have to respect everybody on this journey. It has been said that we're all walking towards the one destination spiritually, and we are. But we're not all walking side by side, and it's not all on the same road. So one lifetime or another, we probably will be or have been on the same road that somebody else we're close to is now on, but we don't agree with that road anymore. But that's fine. That's where they are, and they need that now. But you need something different. It's okay to be excited and tell people about your new direction, because some people might actually get excited and want to come with you, and that's great. But others may not. And the reason then that they don't want to is because they're not ready for that direction yet. So it isn't theirs. So I want you to be comfortable in your own spiritual skin. You are somewhere on a spiritual journey. This lifetime, you are a certain person in a certain set of circumstances, and those circumstances most likely change from time to time because that's life. As long as you don't lose track of your spiritual aspect, you'll never lose your direction, even if there are times when you feel you are directionless. When you are in those times, that's the time to make time for some meditation or contemplation. And you don't have to try and force anything. You just want to make that connection through your heart center to the source, the creator. You can even bypass your guides. Guides are very useful, wonderful friends that we have on the other side. And we can often relate to them more easily than we can to a creator. But sometimes they do step back because they know it's time for us to refresh our connection to the divine, our own personal connection to the divine. Because we can have that. And we should have that. So if you feel your guides have left you, they probably haven't, It's probably that they want you now to just ignore them for a bit and focus on your own personal divine connection. They have that. They want you to have that very strongly too. You'll see them again, or feel them, or talk to them again. They never go far. But sometimes part of your spiritual direction is to just focus on you and your own direct connection to Source. And we may have to do that a number of times throughout our lifetime. We may have done it several times in other lifetimes. It's not that we reconnect, but sometimes we get so caught up in other things. The connection is still there, but it's just a little bit covered up by a whole lot of other things. And when we strengthen that connection, when we focus on it again, that personal connection with the divine, often that's when we will start to have expansions of consciousness. Information, knowledge, insights will flow directly to us, not through the mouths of our guides, but directly to us. And our guides want that for us. That is why they guide us, so that we can have that same direct connection to the divine that they have. So I'll leave you with these things to think about. I'm sure a lot more could be said about spiritual direction, but you can get more on it yourself. And when you get it yourself, it's often more important to you, more real to you, than when you've heard it or read it from someone else. Thank you for listening to me.